Okay, we're ready to begin. Sorry, it's a bit late. And if I get too loud and hysterical, it's because I'm not used to hearing myself this way. So forgive me. So welcome. We are TransPerfect Media, and I want to start by greeting you all in Swahili. I will tell you what to say back to me. So I am going to say to you, habari zenu, and you're going to say mzuri. Okay, habari zenu. Welcome, karibu. So, who is TransPerfect Media? We'll start with a video just to get the energy going. Click.
Click.
So welcome to TransPerfect Media. My name is Mbindyo-Koroso. I am in charge of Kenya and Nigeria office in Africa. I'm from Kenya. I'm based in Nairobi. And I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
All right, my name is Raphael Gati. I'm the lead project manager at Mbindyo-Africa in Kenya and also Nigeria. I lead the localization bit.
And I'm Jacques Barrault, based in Barcelona, Spain. I'm Vice President, Media and Entertainment at TransPerfect.
So some of you might know us from Hiventi, because I think you're hearing Hiventi, then you're hearing TransPerfect. What's going on? Hiventi Africa is a localization company. We are owned by Hiventi Group, which is based in France. We became part of the TransPerfect family in October 2022, sorry. So we are now TransPerfect Media. We have transitioned from Hiventi to TransPerfect Media. And I remember you from last year at the talk on the other side when we're doing localization. I think, yeah, I think so. When we were talking about localization. So there's some familiar faces here. So in case you're wondering why we talk about TransPerfect, it's because we have joined the TransPerfect Media family. So we are still specializing in localization from Kenya and a couple of other bases. But in a nutshell, as part of a much, much bigger family, in a nutshell, we have 106 recording studios in different locations throughout the world. And we have 47 home and theatrical mixing stages. So we are global, but we are extremely local as well. And that's why we're here to talk to you about localization and all the wonderful things that we are able to do as TransPerfect Media. We joined a bigger family, we joined a very powerful family, and now we can do a lot more, especially for African content, which I am very passionate about. I have been a producer for over 25 years. I am a storyteller, and I want us to keep telling stories, but I want us to tell stories and be able to take our stories much further than we have been able to so far. And that is the purpose of this conversation today. So, our media services include subtitling, dubbing, voiceover, and dubbing and voiceover, which is localization bit, and post-production. We also do, of course, translation. That is the sort of body of work that TransPerfect started in. But through us and our many other companies, we now bring the media and entertainment side and management of assets, the localization, we do archiving, we do restoration. We do a lot for content, and we're very happy to be here. So thank you for your time. So, Africa to the world, the power of localization. How many people here know or fully understand what localization actually is? And oh, just so you know, best questions, we have 3 gifts for the best questions here today. So you get one, you get one, you get one. All right. So anyone, and no cheats. No, I'm not going to ask you to. Anyone? Does anyone know what localization really is? Or is it just a buzzword? Okay, good answer. Culture, you change it from one to another. So I'm going to hand over to Raphael. He's just going to walk us through the fundamentals of what localization is. And just so you know, we'll try to keep the presentation bit to like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, so we can have a very interactive Q&A type session. So over to you, Raphael.
All right, thank you, Carol. So hi all, I'll just stand like Carol. So what is localization? So basically it's just adapting content or materials into cultural, linguistic, and regional preferences, yeah? Depending on the target audience that you're trying to reach out to. But the major thing that because I started working in localization about 8 years ago, so I've been in the industry. I started with dubbing. I used to be a technician, directed my way all through subtitling. Now I'm a lead localization manager at TransPerfect. So generally what I have learned about the goal of localization, and it's something that has really gotten me passionate about localization, is just to make sure that the content, when we localize, because sometimes we can lose the essence of culture. So one of the things that we try and maintain and make sure when we are working on the project is just to make sure that the content stays original, even if we move it to another language. The other thing is to also improve understanding of the content. It's very easy to watch content all over the world, but if you don't really connect with it and understand what the message they're trying to pass, then we are not meeting our goal as a localization company. The other thing is also just increase engagement. I will say, if I look at the conversation on Twitter, we call it nowadays X, as Elon Musk would say, it's just to promote engagement, just to make sure we're able to interact and talk about the different perspective, how we understood different contents from different regions, yeah? So that's our main goal, just to make sure that we are able to maintain the essence of the content. And many people think that localization is a bit straightforward, but it's not. And I'll say why. And these are just a few pointers of the key elements that we focus on when we're localizing. So language, one. Language is very diverse and very complex. And when you move from region to region, it changes. I come from Kenya, Nairobi, Kenya, but whereby we are Swahili native speakers. But within the East African community, we have Congo, we have Tanzania, we have Rwanda, Uganda, and Burundi, and some parts of Mozambique, whereby they speak Swahili. If I go to Rwanda, let's say Congo, they would say Batoto, Batoto, which is, in their own way of speaking, is correct, but in proper Swahili, the right way to say it is Watoto, you see? So Watoto means kids. But if you go to, if you speak the proper way of speaking Swahili, it will still be understood. And one of the challenges that we've faced in trying to make sure that we are able to maintain this culture is, how do we sensitize this? How do we make sure that it's standard and can be able to reach different, multiple regions, So we are always trying to make sure that we check the language and make sure that we are providing standard language. The other thing we also check is cultural adaptation, We are all Africans, but we are all different in our own ways. So how do we make the content cut across and make sure that we do not lose the essence of the content, So it's not very straightforward as many people see. Narrative adjustment, yeah? There are certain stories you can tell in Kenya, but there are certain stories you cannot tell in Nigeria. So how do you adapt it into that particular region? We also have legal and regulatory compliance. I'll use an example of a country, Korea. So for South Korea. So for you to post any content in South Korea, it has to go through the Korean regulatory board for it to be approved before you can actually air your content there. So we are also trying to make sure we are able to look at it differently and make sure that at least we are looking at the sensitive terms so that we don't get lost. The other thing is marketing and promotion, Many people only focus on the feature film, the content itself, the main content, but they don't focus on the marketing promotion. So many people will try and promote it in their own local region, but don't think about how can we market it outside there. So that's also some aspects of localizations that we tend to look at. So why is localization important? Does anyone know? Does anyone want to say? Yes? Sorry? So resonate, that's very important. And generally, it's accessibility, you know? Like right now, back in the days, I used to access content only through DSTV, but now I have many options. You know, I can watch shows from Korea, I can watch shows from South Africa, and I can watch shows from Nigeria, I can watch it from North America. And how do I resonate with it? It's through localization. So it's accessible at this particular moment, and just because of the following reasons. So one, not everyone can hear audio, but how do we manage to tell these stories to people who can't hear the audio? It's through localization. So I've noticed many people watch content with the closed captions on, but many people don't know that they're not the target audience. The closed caption subtitles are meant for the deaf and hard of hearing because it has more into it. It has the descriptions of the sound, it has the descriptions of what's taking place. And when we talk about not everyone can speak your language, that's when we come with the dubbing, yeah? So people who can be able to follow up the story through dubbing, yeah? And also, as I said in the beginning of the presentation, it's helping us increase the engagement. People are talking about the different experiences within the different regions. And another thing is inclusivity and diversity. So for example, something that we're really enjoying is audio description, because it targets people who are blind, yeah? So they are they're able to follow up the story even just through the audio, because the audio is able to explain to them, okay, so what's going on and what's happening. So we're trying to make sure that we encompass everyone in the world, no matter how different they are, to be able to enjoy the same content. And our essence is just to make sure that we're able to maintain the same creative aspect of it. So what next? What next? What next for Africa? Yeah? I think that's the biggest question that we keep asking ourselves, and I keep asking myself the same question. So what next? Yeah? And then maybe I'll pass it on to Carol to just...
It's not that hard a question. We wrote a little bit of a blurb about what's next, but for me as a producer, as a person who has been involved in content creation, there's never been a better time for us to be able to get our stories out of where we are. And we are creative, and we have access to markets, to eyeballs, to engagement like we've never had before. But, and there's always a but, what do we need to do other than the creativity in order to get those stories out there? It's not enough that we can tell our stories. It's not enough that we can shoot our stories. There's a whole world waiting to see these stories, to engage with these stories. So, what do we need to do next? And this is where creativity meets technical. And I know from my producer days, creatives, they really don't want to talk about the technical stuff. But the reality is that the technical will take the story further. It unlocks everything. And what I love about localization is that it's unlocking our potential. For example, let me give you an example, Squid Games. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that we would watch a South Korean thriller and it would take off the way it did globally? This one series did better than anyone ever expected, and who would have thought that we would have kept watching South Korean content? Why? Because they localize it. So why are we able to consume it? Because we're getting used to consuming it. And it's the same thing with African content. We have to keep going out there. Let people keep seeing us. Let people keep interfacing with not just Nigeria, but the rest of us. What I love about watching the streamers now is I get to see so much South African content. Kenya, we're coming slowly. We're getting there. But the South African content, we're seeing different genres. We're not just tragic. We can be thrilling. We can be a bit hoary. Can do some horror films. So from a creativity point of view, yes, the potential has been unlocked. However, we interface with technical. And this is where I hand over to my dear colleague Jacques Barrault, because I want to talk to you about some of the tools we use and where this thing is going. I know everyone has some questions about AI. They've had this AI. So he will touch on that as well. But I just want to say that for Africa to really get global, we are local, we are going global, we do need to localize and look at every single tool that localization brings, that we can take advantage of, that we can leverage, that we can use to push our stories into the world. Because remember, our culture is there to be shared. like everybody else. We can't just be absorbing. We also have to share. And we need to use the tools to share more effectively. Over to you, Jacques.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. So, technical and creative and technical. We all want to be creative. See this guitar, I'm a musician. So I play jazz, I create music, but I don't tell you how many hours I sit behind my guitar and rehearse and play scales and etc. etc. So one French singer was saying, talent without technique is just a bad habit. And this is exactly right. So we can all have a very creative sense of what we want to do. If we don't have the help of the technique, we are not going to go very far. So at TransPerfect, we developed a few tools. The first one, it's called Studio Next. Go ahead. Thank you. So this is called Studio Next. It's a tool that we developed in-house at TransPerfect. We have a bunch of engineers in the south of France. And it's good for me because I'm French, so I can communicate with them very easily. I help for the design, and the developers develop this product. So the concept is very simple. It's very intuitive. And by the way, you can stop in our booth there. It's a little bit further. It's called TransPerfect Media. And or Eventy, you will see some different names. And come and try. You will see, and some of you tried it already, and it's very easy. So the concept is very simple. It's a remote recording system, meaning that you can record anywhere. It's a cloud recording system, so we don't have any video or audio in the computer. We are streaming everything from the cloud, and it's extremely easy to maneuver. Everybody can teach that in a few hours. As you can see, this is called the Rhythmo Band. It's a very new technique that was invented by the French in the 1930s. I'm joking, it's not very new. So it's in fact very old, but we digitalized the concept, we made it digital, and for the actor, instead of having a script and trying to look at the script and look at the screen and look at the script and look at the screen, and in the meantime they are moving their head, so the microphone is not picking the same sound, and the mixer has to spend hours to try to make it steady. So with this technique, you have the microphone in front of you, and you just read. It's very, very simple. You read in time. This is the ancestor of the karaoke. You know the karaoke. Everybody knows that. Well, the karaoke is directly based, derived from the Rhythmo Band. So let's talk about what are the advantages. So the advantages are you can record in your room, in your. I would avoid the bathroom or the big hall because all the reverb. But you can do that in a room. You can prepare yourself. We'll tell you after how I teach people how to do that. Obviously, you have a list of lines there in the meantime, and the system is counting the line automatically. So you see here there is 6 lines, meaning that until this number is not equal to 0, you still have lines to record. So it's practically impossible to miss a line. It's impossible, unless you do it on purpose, to come back to, I don't know. So, but you don't want to do that. So you have the lines there, you have the rhythm band moving on, and you record. So why would you record at home? It's very simple. If you go to the studio, first the actor have to be in the same, excuse me. Thank you. So first you have to go to the studio. And if you go to the studio, the sound engineer is going to tell you, well, I'm sorry, you have 10 minutes left, so you have 30 lines to do, go fast. And everybody is rushing at the end of the session. This is always like that. So obviously, if you record that at home, you don't have the concept of time pressure from the studio. Because if you record in 1 hour or 2 hours, doesn't matter to me, as long as the things are recorded. So that's a big advantage. Second advantage, you can be anywhere. So in most of the countries in the world, you have 2 or 3 cities where you have dubbing studios. And if you are not living in one of these cities, well, it's very complicated for you to become a voiceover actor or a dubbing actor, because every time you have to travel to a city, which is not very convenient. So here, you can do it from anywhere. If you live in the middle of the country where there is no dubbing studio, well, you can use that. And you can record your track the same way anybody else record. Can somebody tell this lady to shut up? I'm sorry. After that, you saw a little bit before the video the rhythm band editing. So this tool is also used to create your adaptation. So you can in fact translate directly in the rhythm band. And so that's a big advantage, because you stay in the same tool from translation, adaptation, recording, and you mix after that. You can edit your track, you can mix. So can you go to the next slide, please? Or give me the click. So can you give me the click? Which one is it? The green one? Next. So this little segment was recorded for Mattel, I think. Yes, it was for Mattel. And the client was in the States, okay? In America, in Los Angeles. The director was in Malta. One of the talent was in Cyprus. I mean, I reversed the 2 flags, but it's the same concept. One of the talent was in England. So, meaning that you don't have all to be in the same city, in the same studio to record. And even the director was in another country, another city. So, concept is that you can now think about talent a little bit everywhere, and everybody records its own part. They can even record at the same time. And the director can even be live. We have an internal system like Skype, if you want. Internal system embedded in Studio Next. I'm not going to show you because it's too complicated, but if you come to the booth, I will show you. And the director can be live. You know, in some recording studios, you don't. Police is coming. Be careful.
You can see everybody has earphones.
Ah, okay.
So you can put them on, and then you won't hear that.
If you want to put your headphone to not be.
You can hear yourself too. So you can put.
No, I'm okay. If you want to put your headphones so you will not be disturbed by the young lady that is doing something. I don't know what she's talking about, but it's okay. It's probably very interesting for them, but not for us. So, great. Everybody is, we are all hooked up together. Great. So let's continue. So, people everywhere in the country, everywhere in different countries, different cities, working on the same session. So this is something that you cannot do with Pro Tools or with another system, because you cannot run at the same time on the same session. Here, because it's in the cloud, and everybody can access from the cloud his own part, you have several characters there. Everybody can record its own characters whenever they want, or together if they want. So this is pretty cool. And they can see each other through the video system that we have. If you come, I show you.
Next slide.
So, the concept of Studio Next is that remote, cloud recording, anywhere, at the same time. I can have 20 people recording their different parts at the same time. And of course, like in a normal recording studio, the first one is the one penalized. Because if you have a bunch of characters, you are the first one recording, you don't hear the other ones talking. But if you are the second one, you can hear the first one talking. If you are the third one, you can hear the first two, etc. So this is pretty cool. Can you go to the next? Oh no, I have the clicker, sorry. So, we call that RMS. Wow, this is very fancy. It's a recording management system. Why we call that RMS? Because you remember TMS, Translation Management System. Well, this is exactly the same concept. It's recording management system. So I take only the part of Studio Next. You can use that to cast. And we do a lot of casting at TransPerfect to select voices. So we send a session. The actors just have to download the app because it's an app. And we'll send them the session, they log. It's like when you watch Netflix, same concept. You stream, and you will see, and you will test your voice, and will say, yeah, you're good, you are not good, etc., etc. You do the transcription. We can have an automatic ASR, automatic dialogue recognition. We have the translation. On the rhythm band, you can translate. You can adapt. Why do you adapt and not translate? Translation is the first step. Adaptation is for lip sync. So you adapt to make it very easy very accurate on the lips. Because dubbing needs to be lip sync. And because here you have the picture, you have the sound, you have the rhythm band, you just write and you see immediately if you are in sync or not. That's very simple. Cloud recording, you can use that in a studio. Why would you use a system like that that can record in the studio? Because in the studio they don't have the rhythm band. So we can have, for some very specific projects, you can use that in a studio using the rhythm band. So that is called Studio Next. Now, that's a technique. How do we train people to understand the technique, to know how to speak in front of a microphone, etc., etc. So, I funded the Dubbing Academy. And as you can see, the human voice is an instrument. Let's learn how to play it. So that's the catchphrase of the Dubbing Academy. And why did we create the Dubbing Academy? Because we are missing actors. Everybody knows that. All the content creators are telling you the same thing. We need voices, we need more voices. And even if we have enough voices, they all sound the same. And why do they sound the same? It's very easy to understand. You know the rule of the 20-80? So 20-80 is like you have 20% of the actors doing 80% of the job. And why? Because 20% of the actors are good, are fast, and because you always record in studios, well, time is money. You cannot do 30 lines in 2 hours. You don't have the time. So the fast people and the good people are always getting the jobs. So you have 20% doing 80% of the job, which is not very fair. Because how do you train people? It's very complicated. In Europe, you have a little cast of the same dubbers that are doing everything, all the projects. And people are complaining, well, it sounds the same. It's always the same voices. So we created the Dubbing Academy to train people. And the Dubbing Academy is an online course. So before joining TransPerfect, I was working at Warner Brothers, and I was the head of the dubbing at Warner Brothers. So you probably heard of Harry Potter, or Batman, all these movies. I cast, I supervise all the dubbing worldwide. Everything I know, I put it in the Dubbing Academy. It took me a year to write the curriculum and to put it in LMS form, learning module system. And I can show you some slides. We have 5 modules. It takes hours to go through everything, exercises, exams. You have to be graded if you want to be certified. And at the end of the Dubbing Academy, if you passed your exam well and if you did well, we'll send you Studio Next session. So you will learn how to use Studio Next, but also you will learn how to speak in front of a microphone. And not a lot of people do that because using a microphone is not so simple. Because if the mic is there and I do that, I'm going to sound like something. If I do that, I'm going to sound differently. I will have less bass. So sometimes you want to do that. If you are doing that, you are going to create some perspective. So a lot of people, unfortunately, have the tendency to put the microphone very close to their mouth. And they all sound like that, very close. And it's called the proximity effect. My dear colleague is telling me to speed up, so I'm going to speed up, and then I'm going to speak about so that's the concept of the Dubbing Academy. Is also showing you how to prepare your own environment. So, because I told you, you can record anywhere. In your room, in your closet. Some people record in the closet. It's a very good place to record, because you have a lot of covers and absorbing sound. And so we teach people how to avoid windows, how to avoid wood floor, etc., etc. Oh, and now for the last part. That's a controversial subject, so I won't say anything about it. No, I will tell you a little bit. So we are also using AI. And AI is a very sensitive subject. We have a few tools, and after we can talk about that. So the first tool we have is voice cloning. So what is voice cloning? So my voice, I speak like that, and I have some inflection in my voice. I have a timbre, meaning my voice, like any sound in the world, is based on harmonics. I'm not going to go too much in the acoustic details, but that's why a flute doesn't sound like a double bass, doesn't sound like my voice, doesn't sound like a trumpet. It's or an explosion or a car passing by. They're all sounds, and they're all based on vibration of air. And the different harmonics of the sound are making it sound like a trumpet or a cello or a voice, etc. So the first thing we do when we use AI is we clone the voice, meaning that it's like the model of your voice. It's your prosody, the way you talk, your pitch, your timbre, everything about your voice. After that, when your voice is cloned, we can morph somebody into your voice. Or we can morph your voice in somebody else's voice. So technique to be used with extreme care and precaution. And after we'll talk about the legal aspect of it, because cloning is nice, but we have to be very careful about rights, about likeness of actors. We can talk about that later. The third tool we have in AI is text-to-speech. So text-to-speech is a generative audio system. You type your text, and the computer is going to play what you typed in sound. So you will have a voice. And you heard that on, when you drive, you have your system to tell you where to go, like Waze and etc. So the voices you hear are not human voices, are synthetic voices. And this is another one of these tools, the synthetic voices. So synthetic voices is very simple. There is no such of synthetic voices that are purely synthetic. Everything is based on human voices. And it's like the wines. You know the wines? When you have a blend of wines? So it's exactly the same concept. So we do blend of voices. So I take your voice, your voice, your voice, your voice, and I'm going to create another voice that has nothing to do with you. And it will be a synthetic voice. That's the concept of synthetic voices. And after you have the latest tools that we don't really do, but it exists, I just talk about it, it's face transformation. So face transformation is like you record an audio and the mouth of on the picture will follow the motion, and the AI will generate the motion of the mouth to follow the audio, which is it's not easy to manage. It costs a lot of money, and it can violate a lot of rights about the likeness of the people. So we have to be careful about that. So that are the tools that you have right now in AI for dubbing. Of course, you all heard about ChatGPT, etc. We are not talking about that now. So what's the problem? The problem is using AI is great, and why did we use AI? So we are using sometime on some project when the rights are clear with the actors, it's everything very controlled, we are going faster. Because right now, everybody knows the content has to be delivered very fast. So speed is a real game changer. Content has to be delivered faster, and obviously everybody is wondering, if we have AI, are we going to have all the actors going in bankruptcy and going in unemployment because AI will replace them? I really don't think so. It was exactly the same thing in 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when the machine translation started. Everybody thought, okay, the machine translation is going to put all the translators out of work, and we still need translators as today. Because the AI is going, in fact, to create other jobs to make AI function. So what you are going to lose from one hand, you are going to get more job on the other hand. I will pass on that.
Yes, we have 15 minutes.
And now I'm going to, I go faster now. Voice cloning. So this is the concept of voice cloning. So I recorded a lot of sentences, and they took my voice, and we created the model of my voice. So I'm going to show you how it sounds. So this is the voice morphing system. So in the input, you are going to have all these poetry, sentences in different languages. And I don't speak all these languages, But because AI has my model of voice, in fact, AI is going to make me speak in different languages with my voice, obviously, because I didn't record all that. So this is Spanish, and it's a woman.
El empleado despachaba los billetes en la taquilla de la estación del norte de Madrid.
I didn't record that. The machine is generating my voice. Hebrew, very different voice, much softer. That's me speaking Hebrew. I speak a lot of languages. Easy. Oh, Italian. This one I speak actually, but it's not me.
Non vedrai tante infanie, tanti guai che succedono per l'uomo tra le spade e i fucili dei popoli civili.
And I speak and I sing in Italian even.
Non vedrai tante infamie, tanti guai che succedono per il mondo tra le spade e i fucili dei popoli civili.
Let's try a Polish, just to see. It's still me. My Polish is great. Thank you. Okay, that's more complicated. Very different prosody, very different pronunciation of sounds. I'm good or what? Huh? And that's it. So that was just an overview of the AI tools. You can ask all the questions you want. There are a lot of legal implications about AI, so question is open. And by the way, we have a free gift bag full of goodies from TransPerfect. We'll give them to the 3 best questions from the audience. Here is one.
Hi.
Hi.
I hope you're well.
Yes.
Hold on. He's coming.
Can I try?
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so I recently heard with the AI with voice, right? Because it can pick up with your pitch and your tone and everything, there's now situations where people are being scammed by, like on WhatsApp, on social media, where it's like, oh, this is my best friend,
Yeah.
my girl, she's in trouble, I need to send her money,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden that ain't your girl. They just took your girl's voice.
Yeah.
So in a situation like that, right, how are parameters put in place by like government or even anyone who does AI? Like how do you know, okay, we will give AI to this individual for voice cloning, but we won't give it to this individual? Like how can you actually monitor and control that? Because
Well,
it's tricky.
That's a good question. Putting some scam on people, you didn't need AI to do that because the last 10 years, 15 years, you were receiving emails. People are creating email with a different logo and tell you, oh, by the way, I'm the bank, give me $200. And the email was looking exactly like the bank. So this is not AI. This is pure copy and paste. AI is becoming more dangerous because you can go further in the concept. So unfortunately, right now, the legislation, the regulation are a little bit loose. The Europeans started to agree, the European Union agreed on a AI Act, which will go in effect is 2025. So the 27 countries, they agreed and they proposed something. So it should be voted in 25 and it should be very controlled. and the control is with 4 parameters: extreme risk, moderate risk, low risk, and acceptable. So all the audio stuff are in the low risk, and the AI Act will ask everybody using AI to justify where the voices are coming from, to divulge the sources, and so that will be a first control. I mean, is it really easy to control that? It's very difficult. So the more the technology advances, the more we have to be careful about it. That's the only advice I can give you. The Americans are following that because they talk about regulation. You heard the news and Twitter and Facebook and Meta. They are all trying to control. But, you know, we have to use AI for what it can bring and be aware of the danger.
I'll
Thank
just
you.
add something about the issue of regulation. I think we all know regulation tends to catch up after the fact. We're still trying to get our heads around Uber and other things. So unfortunately, with all things technology, it tends, people who do good will do good, people who do bad will do bad, and somewhere along the way, we hope legislation catches up, but I think it has to boil down to responsibility. And for us as content creators, it's for us to work out what's the responsible way to use technology to tell our stories, what are the tools that work for us. For example, when you look at some of these examples, what does it eliminate? It eliminates some of the cost. So why would a company that makes money out of localization be sharing tools that makes it easier for you to localize? Because it's a no-brainer, we have to. So tools like this give some independence to content creators, because technically you could do some of the voicing yourself. Technically, you could build your little recording booth in the village, get closer to language that your film needs. So from where I sit as a content creator, it's a responsibility issue. I can either do good or I can do bad. But we all know legislation catches up when it catches up. And then in Africa, it really catches up when it catches up. Like, we don't even know if these things will ever happen in our lifetime. Like, maybe by the time they've shut everything else down elsewhere, we're still going, and then they're coming out. You know how it is. It's messy in our continent. But let's be responsible. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please.
Good afternoon, all. Carol and team, first, congratulations. Excellent job. I mean, we've known each other, and you've come a long way.
We have come a long way.
I'm happy for you guys. My name's Faisal. To those of you who don't know me, I'm a wildlife filmmaker from Kenya. So my question is more of a scenario. I've done a wildlife documentary in English. I bring it down to the market to sell it, to localize it, and of course, maybe hypothetically speaking, Korean market is interested, French market is interested, Italian market, and of course, localize it using the software that you've just shown us. Does this mean that my voiceover artist needs to be paid 3 times over? Because hypothetically speaking, he's done it in English, and using his voice, we've got 3 other languages. So are there any legal implications to that?
Absolutely.
Secondly, if I want to localize it, Kenya, for instance, has 45 tribes. We're the 45th. If I want to localize it in other languages, Ma, Kiswahili, is the software able to do it at the moment?
I'll answer that. All of this is early stages, so I wouldn't even get too caught up on the AI side. It's just sort of giving people an idea of what's going on. So when we're hearing about what's happening stateside, and I know our actors and all will get there eventually, but that is what is the issue. If I give my licensing for one film, and technically someone can take it and make 100 different versions of my voice, what does that mean for me from a copyright point of view, from royalties, from any additional income? So I always say, let's watch what they're doing, and then us, we'll find an answer faster when they distill what the issue is. But we are going to have to face those issues at some point. Are you asking, will we pay for 3 different? I don't know. Do you remember when we used to do advertising 20 years ago? We could track where that advert was going to go. And nowadays, we just have to give everyone global buyout because we have no clue on what format that product will go. So legislation will catch up at some point. The issue of rights will catch up at some point. The issue of IP will catch up at some point. On the issue of 42 or 45, you're the 45th tribe in Kenya. We localize to, in Africa, we're still localizing old school. That's the reality. And we will for a while. Why? Because those machines that run AI have to be fed the data. So we have time. That's all I can say. By the time we're teaching Ma, you know, there are over 2,000 languages in Africa. We're not even getting into the dialects. So we have time. So from a localization point of view, you would come to us and say, okay, I have 6 languages. I need to do the 42 languages. What do I need to do? We would then take your assets. We'd work out the different workflows. We'd find the talent that would work on your project if you're doing voice. But don't forget, subtitling is localization as well. So it could go voice or it could be subtitle. I'm sure anyone who's watching Netflix has noticed that they, on average, do 32 different subtitles per title. So we've been able to work on a lot of African content. And even if the producer doesn't know it, it will probably go out in 32 different languages from a subtitling point of view for all the different markets.
Yeah, let me just add one little comment. Hello? Hello? Yeah?
Jack.
No, it doesn't work. Does it work? Can you hear me? Oh, now you can. Okay, so do I have to pay 3 actors or 1 actor doing 3, etc.? So we have to remember something. AI is just a tool, and AI is in fact a collection of tools. So with the tools, you can do a lot of things. It's like, you know, I play guitar. For me, the guitar is a tool. I can play rock and roll, I can play bossa nova, I can play jazz, I can play classical, whatever. I can use it electric, acoustic, nylon strings, metal strings. It's the same instrument, but different ways of using it and different tools, in fact. So AI is just like that. Now, legally speaking, we all know what is the likeness of an actor, or a likeness of anybody, in fact. You, me, you. What is the likeness? The likeness, you. Jeff was feeling forgotten. So the likeness is the voice, the image, anything you say, anything that is related to your person. So the European Union, in the project of the AI Act, is stipulating that you cannot use the likeness of anybody without clearing the right with them. So it is absolutely okay to record somebody like they did with my voice to clone. I just have to give the authorization. And some actors are okay, and some actors are paid for that. So after, it's a question of balance. If I have to give the rights that is going to cost me $5,000 to an actor, and I can dub it for 500, that doesn't make sense. So everything is a question of balance and see your budget. On top of that, AI is a new technique now, a new technology. All these tools, like Caroline said, they are not fed. We don't have enough data right now. Everybody has a machine, but we are missing voices. So it will take a while. The text-to-speech, you all heard text-to-speech, and if you look in your navigation system in the car, you say, who is talking like that? Turn left, turn right. Now, that's not human. Of course it's not human, it's AI. So you can see the difference. So that's why acting will always be acting. The machine, before doing a performance, that's going to take a while. So actors have a little bit of time, but AI can do a missing line. If your actor is traveling, if your actor is sick and cannot go to the studio, well, AI can do a line and kind of sound like it. So you can solve a little bit of problems like that, but it's just a tool. I hope I answered your question.
Any more questions?
Please.
Yes.
A really quick one. I think you've half answered them. I'm Louise Cottrell. I work for AMC Networks. So obviously dubbing's a big part of our life and localization. Really looking at the AI, which is very interesting, and bringing lots of efficiencies. I loved your references to timing and the fact that you can do more and more. Do you see in the longer term then what might the impact be on costs of localization? Will they come down? Do you think they'll stay the same? What's your feeling?
Of course, it will come down. That's obvious, because AI will do a lot of tasks that the human cannot do, and the humans are going to finish being super actors, being able to do the parts that the machine cannot do. But it's like machine translation. You still need translator, but the machine can do a first pass, doing a rough translation, and an editor can come and adapt it, make it really nice for the culture, for etc. So it's exactly the same concept. It will bring the cost down for sure. Another question?
Hi there. I have a practical question. I wasn't able, because I'm only an English speaker, to judge your voice. It sounded wonderful, but I have heard, we've all heard that sort of stilted, manufactured English. And I just wonder, as a director or as an actor, what are the techniques that we need to be aware of with voice capture? Is there a way to do the initial capture that helps make it flow more seamlessly later?
It's a very good question. The machine will detect, will do the model of your voice, will understand the prosody, the way you talk, etc. Now, as a director, you want to direct following the picture. The machine doesn't see, doesn't touch. The machine is just a huge database of words. So let's say I'm going to say a sentence like, it's great, okay? I'm going to say, oh, it's great. Or I'm going to say, oh, man, it's great. Two different meetings, it's exactly the same sentence. So as a director, you will always be there to adapt to the directing, show the attitude of the original actor to recreate that in the dubbing. Machine cannot do that now, and I don't know if they will be able to do that one day.
It can't capture nuances. Jody? Oh. Hello. It can't capture nuances, and one of the key roles of localization, we translate, we adapt to culture. We don't do translation for translation's sake. We can say something, but we have to adapt everything we say to fit the culture, to capture the nuances, and to protect the creative intent. There's the possibility of that happening from an AI perspective is not likely, but it might happen like maybe 100 years from now when I'm already gone, so I wouldn't be able to disqualify that. But right now, the most important thing is that it cannot capture the nuances. So why are humans important? Because we're complex.
And I think a good example is what we do for Nigeria. At the moment, if I look at the content we've worked on for Nigeria, our clients don't want us to use any English. They want us to use Nigerian English. And how they speak in Nigeria is totally different. So if you do not adapt their content into Nigerian, it loses the essence of the content, you know. It doesn't feel Nigerian anymore. So even if it's in let's say American English, it's still not the same. So I think what Caroline really still holds, we have to adapt to the nuances.
Please.
Yes.
I love the whole culture concept because for me, I wanted to have an understanding of when we're speaking about localization and we're speaking about the different tribes, the foundation of it is actually speaking the same voice and us actually understanding each other, even if we are far from each other in terms of countries. So what I'm trying to understand is the vision behind it as well. Like when you guys are touching on storytelling, and we are forming a foundation of like the indigenous, for example, type of storytelling, where I see the whole AI thing, but I'm more focused on the stories as well,
Yes.
like the core of the stories. Would you say the vision of it is unity in terms of where you guys are going with it when it comes to us understanding each other in terms of the different stories that we share? For example, me being a Zulu person in South Africa and relating to someone who is in Kenya and is speaking Swahili, which does interlink in terms of where the language originates, where I have that hunger to actually have an understanding of the language itself, but the translation of it can make me have an understanding. Are we looking at a bigger picture in that way? I'm just trying to paint it in my head.
Okay, I hope this answers the question. From where I sit, what does localization bring? It brings the ability to share. So, you, my sister, will make a film in Zulu. I come from a tribe called the Kamba. We are Bantu, and we are actually direct descendants of the Zulu. We walked, apparently, from the bottom up to East Africa. Okay? And if you listen to Kamba, you will hear little words that are Zulu. Yeah? And just the same way Swahili comes from many of the Bantu languages. So what is the power of localization? It shares our culture. It binds us together, but it also educates. When we talk about diversity, I know everyone's like diversity, inclusion, catchwords. But it is diversity. It is sharing the diversity. It helps us understand what other people are doing, and it helps us understand our humanity. That there's more that we have more in common than we don't. You know, for someone in South Korea sitting there, they might think they have nothing in common with you. But by telling your story, and maybe it's a love story, they'll start to realize, oh, we love the same way. We react the same way. We might roll our eyes a little bit more, but we're still expressing care. So from where I sit, what the power of localization for our stories is, we help normalize the way we do what it is that we do. You know, if I take a story from you, and I take it to my people it's called Ukambani, in Ukambani, they'll realize, you mean people in South Africa, they also behave the way we do? Because it's not just about taking the stories, like to the West. Even in Africa, we don't always understand each other. So for me, it just normalizes, it's culture, it's diversity, it infuses, it's Ubuntu, it's community.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Someone's getting a bag. No, I'm teasing. You have no questions?
No,
okay, I think if I can just say, I think with AI, people are a little bit nervous about AI because it's the unknown. But I think all it's going to do is add value to our industry as well. Certainly from a language and a linguistic point of view, it's going to take a lot of time off what we currently do, and it's going to add more time to add the actual skill of linguistics and language to, instead of doing a basic translation, we can now, use those linguistic skills to do a better translation or a better localization.
Yeah.
So, change is scary, but it's also very exciting. So I think we should embrace it rather than be scared of it and work with it and not fight it. That's just my 2 cents worth.
I agree. You have another question there?
Any last question or comment?
Hi. So I just wanted to ask, it appears that localization seems to be going beyond just translation. So, in the context of Africa, other than translators, what kind of skills or experiences do you use or look for to localize concept to ensure that it's adapted well?
Okay, I can answer that.
And after I will do a remark.
And then you
on
can
that,
add. Okay, so one of the things that we've discovered, because we work with freelancers from all over Africa, you know, the more of us that speak our indigenous languages, the better localization will be. But unfortunately, we're losing language. And we're losing language in Africa rapidly. So what's happening is that we've ended up with these hybrids in urban centers, but our children are not hearing enough content in their languages, so we're not able to share through the generations. What skills are we looking for? Authentic indigenous language speakers, and then be able to write it as well. Why? Because the subs. We have to be able to write the subs. We would love to work with writers, always looking for writers. Why? Audio description. You know, I might say something like 10 paragraphs, and this one writer will say it in one word, which is what you need because it's going to appear in a very short line. So we work with writers. We work with translators, and of course, the voiceover artist. The purpose of this technology, Studio Next, it came up during COVID. Why? Because we couldn't get it into studios. We needed to get the studios to the people. So what we love about this technology is that from an African perspective, it means we don't have to leave the village. We do not have to come to the urban centers to do the work that we do. We can be doing language at home where it's even more local, the language, you know what I mean? Like urban centers, I'm sorry, but we've kind of, yeah, it didn't work out for us in a language perspective. But it means that even for us as localizers, we can get closer, closer, closer to language and the authenticity, because that is what localization is about, authenticity. So we look for actors, and you don't have to be a professional actor. At this point, it's just train yourself, learn. It's a soft skill, we can keep going. Translators and writers for the audio descriptions.
But we offer training. That's what we have.
But we do the training through the Dubbing Academy is free. So if you come there and do that QR code thing, it's free. And we teach you how to set up a basic system so you can do recordings. What is that? What, you know, podcast, whatever, but you can do it yourself. And then hopefully you'll be able to plug into studios that can use the technology so that if you're somewhere far away, we can still get the voice.
So just a quick remark to finish with the concept of localization, adaptation, etc. In fact, all the countries, all the languages have the same problem. When I started at Warner Brothers, my first gig was to recast the Looney Tunes all over the world for the movie Space Jam. I was directing the actor for the movie Space Jam, all 23, 24 languages. So I start going to Japan, and they tell me, oh, in Japan, it's very different. After I go to China, oh, in China, it's different. After I go to Italy, oh, here it's very different. No, it's exactly the same problem for everybody. And one time I was in China, I was having a dinner with the Minister of Culture, and I was, I think it was Looney Tunes Back in Action or something like that. And we have a formal dinner. I was representing Warner at the time. And the Minister of Culture in China tells me, I don't like dubbing. So it started well, you know. So I said, well, why? And he says, because you are importing American culture in China. And I started to laugh. I said, I'm French. I cannot import American culture. The goal is not to make it like the American one. The American have it already. We are going to make it funny for the Chinese, adapt it to the Chinese culture, translate the jokes in Chinese. That's what we don't dub to a language, we dub to a culture. That's exactly what we said. And we did the movie finally.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Wait.
Oh boy. Caroline, you can decide.
I have my Ubuntu sister here. Thank you very much for your question. Yeah.
Lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too. I'll let you choose.
Okay, I'm going to give this bag to this lady that was asking me a lot of questions about AI. And don't do it again. No, it's okay.
because it's all of them have gone to the ladies. I think I just need to give it to the gentleman. Here you go.
Perfect.
So please feel free to see us at E23. If you want to know more about the Dubbing Academy, just get the QR code, spread the word. We can all do this at home.
And if you want to record with Studio Next, come by the booth and we try your voice.
Thank you.
Thank you.